Hello and welcome to DPN TV here at the DPN Car Collection, and you join us in one of our new cars that we've just added to the car collection with a Rover 75 Connoisseur SE, and I thought I'd try and document the process that we're going to go through to get it, sort of more into our collection and some of the things we do initially once we've picked a car and added it to our collection. So this is just giving you a shot, as it is, the front before we've cleaned it, added any of our own mats or anything like that, and try and document some of the things we go through. Right, so the first thing we do once we've got it home is we try and add the moisture traps, damp traps. Now we have these in all of our cars, and I did this as soon as we got it home on day one, was put these in because we believe these keep the cars from getting any moisture and dampness in them, and in this case there's bound to be some in there, so this will help remove it. Also, as always, we're looking out for any leaks because the damp traps will not work really that efficiently if there are any leaks. They only work if the car is watertight, but even if a car is watertight, it's always good to have them in. They tend to stop the cars having any smells as well, which this one hasn't really, but it brings them almost back to neutral, a new car sort of feelings. That's the first thing we do. We put one there in the back passenger footwell, and we also put one here in the front passenger footwell. So as you can see, there's a wire there and there's a car camera. Now we put that in temporarily for the run home, and that will be something that we fit in before we do any other drives in it. As I say, we're not really doing the main essentials here. Obviously we eventually go on to sort of service it and check all the brakes before we do any major runs in it, all that kind of safe stuff. These are just the things that we do straight away, just the minute we get it, little simple things you could do to stop any future problems or any problems that aren't there now and end up happening because you haven't done these little simple things. So the next places we put the damp traps is here in the boot, one there and one in here, and we keep an eye out for any leaks because the 75s are known for leaking from the back lights here. Actually, we've had some really heavy rain, and this side here, driver's side, is completely dry. There's nothing coming in at all, and after more or less a day of rain, we've got a teeny little bit of water there. Now we don't know whether that's coming in from the chrome strips or of course inside the black lights, which is nice. This one actually has the covers, and the first thing we are going to do is tighten up the little bolts that hold the light in, just to make sure that sill is there, and of course keep an eye on it now we're there. But I think that's one of the first things to really check. We kept the carpets back in anticipation that might happen, just to make sure they don't get wet. And actually, for nothing being done, that is pretty amazing to think that all there was a teeny little bit of water. So we're very, very pleased that. And there was no real signs of major leaks. And although you see a little bit of dampness on this board, it's not actually damp. That is sort of dried dampness from a future time, or very minimal compared to what you can find when you open a boot on any car or 75 that can have that leak. So yeah, not looking too bad. And again, now we know that little bit's there, we can keep an eye on it and try some simple things to sort it out before we do anything major. So some people would straight away just change the seals on these back lights, but we're going to believe if it's dry and not leaking, then you leave it well alone, because you could end up changing it for a new seal, and for some reason that doesn't seal and it leaks even worse. So yeah, we would only change that if there definitely is a leak, and if that does turn to be a leak we can't solve on this side, then we would go on to change them, but we're not going to do it just for the sake of doing it. So I am just tightening up the 3 bolts on these back headlights just to see if that does stop the leak before, as I said, we get involved in putting new seals in. And if you would like to see a full video on me doing this, then again that's on the channel. All you have to do is go to the 75 playlist and look for the right video. And I think here on this end bolt we may have found the culprit, as this is incredibly loose. So yeah, we're going to wait and see, but hopefully this does solve it. So interestingly enough, why I've been looking around here, and we noticed some little drips appearing here, and when we come up here, this like sort of seam line here is just very slightly damp, so there's obviously a slight amount of water getting in there. And when you look at the seal here, it looks like someone's put some sort of sealant in there, so there's obviously been a slight problem here before that. It's a very minor leak, so it's also something to keep an eye on, and perhaps can be revisited. But at least we've sorted out the loose lowet, and the water is running past that and not coming in when you sort of pour some water down here, so that's certainly sorted that out. And this is certainly one we're going to have to keep an eye on, because obviously it will allow rusting eventually, and we want to get it sorted out, but more one to be revisited. But yeah, I thought I'd include that for you in this video, as we continue to keep an eye on it, and as we're aware of it, and it's very minor and only in heavy rain that any water comes in. Well, not heavy rain, but persistent rain. We can be aware of that and keep an eye on that and sort it out as time goes on, which is what you do when you take on the ownership of a new car. It's a steady process. And as we come round to the front of the car, into the engine, the few things I always check under here as the sun begins to come out after all this rain, of course, is the plenum chamber. Now on this one, not all of them, you've got a little drain there. It's looking a little bit mucky, but the water is going down it. And then the main drain in the bottom of the plenum chamber you access through this grid, but there's a shield to protect the computer. So if you just want to check, and you can even do this when you're looking at a car, but to just check and make sure that water isn't building up till you can clean it, and obviously if it's quite bad you've got to do it straight away, is to look this side and have a little look down in there, and actually there's hardly any water in there at all, so this is draining really well, considering we've had quite a bit of rain. So that's the first thing I've checked on there. Again, there's quite a lot of leaves and debris. That's something we're going to want to clean out, but it's certainly worth checking as soon as you get and keeping an eye on it, especially if you've had any rain. The other thing is the bonnet catch. On this it looks really good and the bonnet feels really free, so we're not really going to worry about that too much. But again, it's worth checking, because if this casing's off or it's been tied a bit badly, or you're unsure, then it's certainly worth investigating that, because the last thing you want is not be able to open the bonnet straight away. The other thing we've done is put the battery on charge. This is another good thing to do. Although we did just under an hour's run, the battery was probably pretty low, because it had sat there for a little while. So although that boosted it up, the best thing to do is put it on a good day's charge, or even 24 hours charge, to really get that battery back working. That's also a good thing to do even on your own cars when you're using them even fairly regularly. A good charge every so often really does bring the battery back up to health. The other last thing that I noticed is that this bonnet is hanging down. This bonnet sort of heat shield or soundproofing material is hanging down, and it's very, very wet here. And if we notice, this little plastic hook that goes into that hole just there is missing, and what we think's happening is this is hanging down, and when you shut the bonnet it gets trapped on this sill, sits here and is soaking up the water, which isn't very good. So that's another thing that we're going to get done straight away. Get one of those plastic clips and just get that clipped back up. So another, just some general little quick checks you can do under the bonnet when you first get the car, to stop anything getting too sort of bad under here before you can then do the proper work long term. So yeah, that's the grid back on. If you would like to know a little bit more about cleaning the plenum chambers out, then there is a video on the channel showing you exactly how we go about doing that. And just to update you in this video, what we have actually done here, hopefully you can see, is we've used 2 ties and tied the bonnet back, because at the moment the plastic peg doesn't really hold the whole bit back, and we found by having that held back like that, we've had quite a rainy night and this hasn't got wet at all. And as you can see, we've cleaned all of the insulation material up and got that sort of white mould away from there. So at the moment that's working quite well, and we're going to keep a eye on it and see how that works, because I think that's going to keep that insulation material from dropping back down in a way that the peg really wasn't, and especially for this winter, it'll certainly stop it getting wet again and having to be dried out. So we're back inside, and hopefully that gives you a little idea of some of the things that might be worth keeping an eye on when you first take on ownership of the 75, until you can sort them out properly, and that just stops things escalating or damage getting done after you took on ownership. Because if you can make sure that water doesn't build up in the boot, if there's a slight leak on the lights, you can get new seals, or you can make sure that the plenum chamber isn't going to overflow and come into the car, damage your computer box. That's all a lot of hassle and time saved just by keeping an eye on them till you can do those jobs. Hopefully that does give you an idea of a few things that are worth keeping an eye on, as well as some of the other little things I've covered. And hopefully then in the future we can cover us doing some of the other things on this Rover 75 as we bring it up to our DPN car collection standards. As I said, it may take a couple of years to get everything done, but some of the things we probably will do in the nearer future as we get this ready, of course, is putting on a new cam belt, as we think that's always worth doing, so we'll take you through that. A service, of course, a full clean of the inside of the car, changing the key fob casing also is one of the things we want to try and do. And probably there's some other things I can't remember yet, but as I say, hopefully we'll take you through them. The brakes, of course, we'll give them a good looking at and an overhaul as well. As always, hopefully this is useful. Don't forget to subscribe, and of course hopefully we can show you those other bits as time goes on.